Hello to everyone in the Holy Trinity Greek Orthodox Cathedral community. This is Father Jonathan. I hope you're all doing well. We're going to continue our reflections on the book of Psalms. Yesterday we spoke about Psalm 1 and blessedness and how we are all called to a blessedness. And the Psalter really is as the prayer book of the church, reminding us both of God's blessings and the reality of the difficulties we face in the midst of the world. And blessedness is to meet those difficulties with love for God and love for our neighbor. Today I'll be speaking about Psalm 2. And it's it goes hand in hand with Psalm 1. It's a pair. And it speaks about our prime example of what the blessed man looks like. And as always, I'll read the psalm and then I'll draw out some important parts that I think really speak to our present situation. Without any further ado, here is Psalm 2. Why do the nations rage and the peoples meditate on vain things? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers gather together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, "Let us break their bands and cast away their yokes from us." He who sits in the heavens shall laugh at them. The Lord shall mock them. Then shall he speak to them in his wrath, and trouble them in his anger. But I was established as king by him over his holy hill of Zion, declaring the Lord's decree. The Lord said to me, "You are my son, today I have begotten you. Ask me, and I will give to you the nations for your inheritance, and the ends of the earth for your possession." We're in a time of uncertainty, of fear. And that fear and anxiety can feel like it's assaulting us. Yes, the psalm speaks about nations who are raging and meditating on vain things that don't ultimately matter. It's also speaking about those assaults that we're having on all sides from our fears, these anxieties, things that cause us to cower because of such uncertainty. And it may feel like they're set against us, that we are fighting for our lives. Now, there are those who are fighting for their lives from this illness. But we are suffering great loss of our day-to-day life that we were used to. Things that we were certain about before, not so certain. Things that perhaps we took for granted are being stolen away from us from this thing that we can't even see, but can do great harm. But he who sits in the heavens shall laugh at these things. What does that mean? It means that God ultimately is in control. We need not fear, though we can have fear. For God is there with us, keeping us, protecting us. And we may not be receiving exactly what we hope for in all of this. We may be desperately wanting all of this to come to a close and for things to go back to normal. But God is with us in all of this. And so it might be worthwhile for us to begin to meditate on how we can see God in the midst of this. Now, Christ is our example in this. He enters a world that is sinful, full of corruption. Humanity is so far gone that they don't even recognize their own God when he enters into the world. When the very voice of the Father comes down at baptism and says what this psalm says, "You are my son, today I have begotten you." God's very voice and God's very presence, the Word of God incarnate, can be standing before us. And if we're not ready to receive him, we could be like those of his own time in every generation, who meditate on vain things that don't ultimately matter, to rage on things, to be upset about things that don't matter. Everything is under God's providence. And we can utilize the present moment, even in its difficulties, even when things are difficult. We can meditate on God and recognize how God is working in the midst of even calamities, even fearful, anxiety-inducing realities. We can meditate on God's presence in the midst of them. And in doing so, you'll find comfort and perhaps find a way to act in the midst of the world that addresses the needs of those around us and our own needs. Why do the nations rage and the peoples meditate on vain things? Because they haven't put God first. If we put God first, all these other things will fall by the wayside and our lives can be transformed. Now, the circumstances in which we live might not change. We may find ourselves stuck at home. We may find ourselves fearful of potentially contracting this virus or spreading this virus. We may be concerned about all of our finances and the political situation, all of these things. But they're vain. They're vanity. They don't ultimately matter. For God is with us, protecting us, keeping us in all things. And all things will be okay. If we ask of God, he will give us even the nations as our inheritance and the ends of the earth as our possession. We will receive everything that we need. Maybe not everything that we want, but everything that we need. We're here for you. We're praying for you. Don't hesitate to reach out to us, call us, email us, anything at all. We are here for you. We love you. We're praying for you. God bless you.